Well, here we are, folks. I tell you, with so much BS going on back in the States, I had to take a few days off. This is Bob Gomes bringing you the Concerned Forum. And I got a couple of things I want to talk about this evening. And I know right now, everybody's all bent out of shape behind this Epstein business, right? Which rightfully so. But me being a kid from Harlem, transplanted to the Bronx, I got a couple of points I want to make about local New York politics. Now, we were fortunate that we got Brother Mondami elected. That's a wonderful thing, and I think that it really points to a possibly positive future, not just for New York, but for the Democratic Party as a whole, if they take the advantage. In the meantime, in my old district in the Bronx, you have Jose Torres, the present congressman from the 15th Congressional District, and he's running against a gentleman named Jose Vegas. All right. Now, Torres represents the 15th in the Bronx. Bear in mind that the 15th is one of the poorest congressional districts in America. That means that it rates right up there with places like Alabama and Mississippi. Okay? So you think about that for a minute. You got New York City in the Bronx, and you got a congressional district that's on the same level as some of those Tobacco Road joints in Alabama and Mississippi. The kind of places that author, William Faulkner, used to write about. Now, one of the problems is because of the fact that there has historically been disinvestment in New York City in general and in the Bronx in particular. The economic conditions really suck, to put it plainly. Okay? Now, you have had an inadequate investment in human capital and education. The housing cost there, and I know because I just left the Bronx in this past June, okay? And the cost of housing is exorbitant. And you're talking about that in a place where the median income is like close to 46,000 bucks a year. Okay? Now, all the time that I spent in the Bronx, I don't think I ever met anybody that made 46 grand. So that gives you an idea about the general conditions there. And of course, you have the, typical American bit, racial and income segregation. Not to mention the environmental factors and health issues. Now, the public policy consequences, well, as you can imagine, they're formidable. Now, you look at people there in the Bronx, they've had their funding cut, Medicaid slashed, SNAP program slashed, and you have to ask yourself, well, what the hell has Torres done about that? I think that is a damn shame. The congressman for a district like that, they should be on TV every damn night pointing the finger and asking what the hell is wrong in the United States, where a community in the greatest city in America, New York, has a place where people are living on a subsistence level like some back county in Mississippi. Excuse me. Torres has not done that. Now, to look on the flip side, you got Jose Vega, and he says, this is what I like about him. Says we need more on-site job training and having guys work, having guys and gals work on local infrastructure projects. Now I know many Americans, we're not into history, but we all heard about the Great Depression of 1929. What Vega is talking about is the same thing that FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, did with the CCC programs and organizations of that nature. And, that's one of the things that angers me. When we have instances of economic catastrophe in America, we know what we need to do. It's been done before. It's not magic, okay? It's not something that a little wizard just, idea popped out of his head. We have done it before. We can do it again. Torres doesn't talk about that. It seems that with Torres, his main project is to keep AIPAC happy. And my word to him and to all our representatives that are so good at getting money to help Israel, I would say what they need to do possibly is move to Israel and run for the Knesset over there. Right now, we need people who are about Americans and the people who live here in America. That's not Torres. That's Vega. Okay? Now, he's also, that's what I like about this guy. I guess because my background in intelligence when I was in the Navy, I like to see this. He has an idea for the international view. And unlike Torres, as I said, whose international outlook, it only goes as far as getting donations from AIPAC. Vega understands the potential of the BRIC nations. What are the BRIC nations? India, South Africa, Brazil, Asian nations. And that is going to be the future of this planet. I know some people might not want to hear that, but that's being real. Okay? And also I like it because of the fact that Mr. Vega is a contributor to the Schiller Institute. Now, the Schiller Institute, these folks, they have a way of looking at the world that we haven't seen in America in a very long time. And, sometimes you got to go back to go forward. As anyone, especially any male who has driven with a wife, spouse, girlfriend, driving down the highway and missing the exits, it's happened, And she says, hey, baby, you need to go back, get on the right road to go forward. And that's what the people in the Schiller Institute, to me, that's what they seem to be about. They talk about a lot of stuff that we used to do and think about back in the 60s, before the whole issue of Vietnam clouded everything and really took America's eye off the ball, in my opinion. Now, I didn't participate in that. I was a little kid at the time, very little. But the ironic thing is that I wound up being a part of the military after we had been there for almost 10 years. Well, I grew up with Vietnam, and I remember what America was like before we got so deeply engrossed in that tragedy. And to me, that's what the Schiller Institute seems to be about. And I'm glad that Mr. Vega is a part of that. Now, I tell you quite frankly, that's really all I have to say on the subject as we get closer to the elections of next November. And I'm very happy to give my support to Mr. Vega. And I hope that people out there who live in New York, who live in the 15th district will do likewise. Having lived in the 15th district for several years, I think that Mr. Vega will be a great change that the 15th definitely needs. Now, moving on, I know everybody's waiting to hear about this Epstein bullshit, right? And I do mean bullshit in a very, how should I say, in a very sad kind of way. Excuse me. Now, what is Epstein? What is this all about? Well, it's about a wealthy American New York financier who apparently he ran a ring of underage girls as young as 13. He trafficked them and he made them the playthings of rich and powerful men in politics, government, and in in the corporate world. And there's like over 1,000 victims of this. And there was a huge cover-up. There's been a huge cover-up that's still going on. And unfortunately, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was a very close friend and confidant for at least 15 years of this guy who went to jail for sex trafficking of underage girls. And it seems like finally this whole hidden thing is finally starting to become public. Now, we have to also look at this from a different, various angles. Number one, from a national security angle, because it is believed that our adversaries, especially Russia and China, are well aware of Mr. Trump's picadillos and also of the picadillos of our most, how should I say, our most iconic people in government, even in academia, and in politics, and in the corporate world. And one of the things that I learned, because I myself have what they call a cosmic top secret clearance that I received while I was in the Navy to be able to work in Washington at the Defense Intelligence Agency and work in the White House and work in the Pentagon. And one of the main concerns was, are you doing something or have you done something by which a foreign adversary can blackmail you to turn against the interests of the United States? I'm sorry. That's Donald Trump all over. Right? And I'm not gonna take too much time with this because the more I talk about it, the more sick on my stomach I get. But it says a lot, unfortunately. It says a lot about the ruling class in the United States. And it explains why the American people, the vast majority of us, working Americans, why our quality of life is so disgustingly trashy compared to other working class people in the rest of the Western world. And that's because the mass majority of the elites think of us as garbage. If they have a foreign issue, for example, they want to get oil from a particular country, they take our sons, well, nowadays they take our sons and our daughters, and they send them off to some far off place in the Middle East, or as in now, where Trump is getting ready to attack Venezuela and looking at attacking Nigeria here in Africa, and they send them there. And then when these young folks come home, broken, limbs missing, sometimes even minds missing, that's supposed to be okay. And that's because they have no respect. They have no consideration for working class Americans. Why don't we have health care in the United States? Why don't we have working people? Why don't we have child care? Why don't we have the things that if you go to the Netherlands, if you go to Sweden, Norway, my God, even Great Britain, the things that folks just take for granted, we don't have. Listen, the president of the United States, 2 weeks ago, he went to the Supreme Court to fight dispersing funds for 42 million hungry Americans. And the sad thing is that some Americans actually supported this guy. And to me, the whole Epstein thing, as tragic as it was, it points to something much more serious. It points to the fact that we have allowed in our country an elite class of people that essentially they believe that the average working American is somehow less of a human being, that somehow they are not entitled to the same sunshine, to the same raindrops, to the same air to breathe, as these elite people believe they have the sole purview. You understand? See, World War II, and I understand now why folks say that World War II was the last good war. Because back then you had guys, captains of industries, who went into the military. Some of them didn't come back. But when you went to their offices in 46, 47, so on, they had their plaques of military service and what have you. You don't have that nowadays. That's one of the bad things that Vietnam did to our American society. You had those who go out and work and do things for the country, and you have those that basically sit back and enjoy the luxury. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a 5-time draft dodger. Okay? First time I went in the military, I was 17 years old. Now, Donald Trump has about a good, 10, 11 years on me. Okay? But what did he do? He came up with some bone spur nonsense. 5 times. And I will always despise Donald Trump because he talked about the men from my neighborhood in Harlem who went, some of them didn't come back. But the idea of these men being able to get some kind of decent housing out in his old neighborhood in Queens, it repulsed him so. Remember, he had properties, him and his old man, where he didn't want black nurses, didn't want black doctors to be able to rent. And see, this is what we have come to in America. And if you notice, when the hell has Trump said anything about the victims, about the girls, the 13 and 14-year-old girls who are now grown women? I mean, this guy, he never even said, hey, I'm sorry for what happened to you. And see, this is why I get so angry at my white working class brethren that call themselves MAGA or Trump supporters. Because he doesn't give a good goddamn about you. But yet you hold this guy up as some kind of orange guy. And that's disgusting. It's like a woman that's married to a wife abuser who gets beaten every other day, still kisses the feet of her abuser. And I truly feel that people that support Donald Trump, that's exactly who they are. They kiss the feet of their abuser. And what people like Trump do, they throw out these canards about, oh, you have the Mexicans send us their rapists and murderers, right? Black people are lazy, see? And unfortunately, because in America for so long, people have been programmed by hate, a lot of people fall for that bullshit. This is what I say to what they call white trailer park trash. I'm a black guy out of Harlem, okay? The so-called ghetto. You know what? Trump don't give a good goddamn about me, and he don't give a good goddamn about you. And someday you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that. And when that happens, then maybe we can really make America the land of the free and the home of the brave. But as long as you keep supporting this guy and throwing rose petals at his feet, this megalomaniac, this twisted, sick old man, as long as you keep doing that, America will never get straight. And it's time that people recognize that. You chose a sex abuser, a criminal, a convicted criminal, okay? And now, what do you call him? A pedophile? Or at the very least, someone running cover for pedophiles. You chose that over a black Asian woman who was the vice president of the United States. And now you see all working, these working class white people, crying, they cutting this, they taking that. Well, you should have listened. Because, see, it's not just Donald Trump. Remember, Trump is just a symptom of the illness that we as Americans have. That's where you have these people like, what's his name, little creep's name, Nick Fuentes, and these turning point people who crawl from underneath rocks. That's where they come from. Because of this sick idea that somehow the worth of a human being is to be measured by the color of his or her skin. That's how you do it. That's how you can brutalize and sexually abuse 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old women and think that it's okay for you to do that and that you expect to be able to get away with that. Now, what's that woman's name? Megyn Kelly? She is a sad piece of trash, quite frankly. And I understand that she has children too. I wonder how she would feel if that sort of thing happened to her. I believe she has at least one daughter. And I'm curious to know how she would feel if something like that happened to her daughter. But don't think it's just racial now. You got what's his name, that loudmouth, Stephen Smith. And what's the other guy? Charlemagne the God. People like that who don't recognize what a certain group of people are trying to do to this country. And see, that's why I say I see the whole Epstein thing. It was horrendous. It was tragic. And those involved in the abuse, they need to be put away. But let's not forget, it's symptomatic of what has been happening to us as a country for the last 30 years. And Americans need to stand up and face it. You know, you got this guy, Trump, wanting to send troops to every place, talking about crime. But he is the greatest criminal. He is the first criminal American president that we have ever had in our history. But yet he wants to invade Charlotte, North Carolina, Chicago, Oregon. I mean, what the hell is this? Chasing people out or throwing people out or making them disappear? This guy whose wife came here under false pretenses, she wasn't no damn Rhodes Scholar, right? And I don't knock her for that. I really don't. I bear her no ill will for that. But my God, why in the hell is it okay for her, but you're chasing, you know, 25-year-old construction workers through the streets? And see, that's the problem because a lot of Americans forget how they came here. They forget how this country was started. I'm glad to see that the Roman Catholic Church in America is finally standing up and saying, no, you don't treat human beings like this. Especially Irish and Italian bishops, yeah, because you remember how it was when your forebears came over here. Yeah, Epstein is a crisis. It has to be solved. People have to be held accountable. But let's not even imagine that this is the end, okay? The problem is what we have allowed to take place in America over the last 30, 40 years. The idea that you can take working class people, who were these girls? Most of these girls had problems at home, so on and so forth. The working class. And you felt it was okay to take advantage of these people. And you know, a lot of the perpetrators, they had wives in their homes, they had sons, they had daughters. But the girls that they abused, they didn't see them. You know, sometimes you think, right? Damn, that could have been my son, that could have been my daughter. But these elites that took advantage of these girls, they didn't see it like that. They're just trash. All these icons, all these big time tech bros, right? They don't see the average American as even, human. Look look what MAGA is doing to Indian Americans. Now, I will say that the Indian Americans that MAGA is now attacking, they deserve what they get because they helped start this whole MAGA craziness. But to attack anyone because of who they are and how they were born and where they were born at, that is antithetical to what this country is supposed to be about. I think Dinesh D'Souza sucks as a person, but he should not be attacked because of the color of his skin. Same thing for that other idiot. What's his name? Venezuela? What? I can't pronounce his name, so I won't try because I don't want to be disrespectful. But that clown that's running in Ohio, I think he's a disgusting, stupid human being. But I will attack him for that. I will not attack him for being an Indian American because he has much right to be here as anyone else. But see, this is what we have degraded to. And you know, the sad thing is a lot of the elites, they like to see that because they like to see the various groups in this country tear and claw and fight each other. Because that way they know that we're not looking at them. It's called divide and conquer. I mean, it's an old game, but unfortunately, it still works. So, yeah, what's going on with the whole Epstein thing? It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace that one party, or most of one party, has been working to cover it up. It's a disgrace that we have a president of the United States that was involved with Epstein. But I think the bigger disgrace is what we have allowed to happen to ourselves as a country. The way that we have allowed the elites in American society to basically put their foot on the necks of the working class. So that's really all I had to say. I wish Mr. Vega good luck in taking down Richie Torres because we need somebody that's going to actually stand up for the Bronx and not for AIPAC, number one. And number two, the whole AIPAC thing, like I say, it saddens me like I don't know what. But let's remember, there is a bigger picture. And this is not to disrespect the poor woman who went through that hell. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to be compensated in some type of way. But we cannot forget that this is indicative of what has happened to this country over the last 30, 40 years. We have allowed our working class to be treated like scum. And when you allow the idea that you can treat people any kind of way because of their color or their economic circumstance, you are always courting disaster. And that's what we have going on now with Epstein. So listen, folks, this is the Concerned Forum. I'm Bob Gums. What am I supposed to say now? Oh, yeah, if you see me on YouTube, give it a little check. And if you got comments to make, by all means, either pro or con, make them. But this is what, this is how I see it. Listen, bless you all. Take care of each other. Stay woke. Keep reading. And look out for each other. Peace.